Okay, I think we're good to go for now.
All right, I want to welcome everyone to the Architecture Review Board meeting for March 22nd, 2020, 4:30 p.m. First order of business will be the approval of February 22nd, 2022
Stupid
minutes.
question, did they go into the microphone?
I'm sorry,
Sorry, go ahead.
can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I will, with a small correction.
Okay, Mary, make note.
Under 830 Highland Avenue, it says garage doors, frosted glass, and doors to be frosted glass under the decision. That should be garage door windows.
What should it be, Mary?
Instead of garage doors, frosted glass, it should be garage door windows, frosted glass. And it's in two spots, under the bullet points, last bullet point, and the second bullet point on the decision. Just a little minor correction,
Okay, I got it.
okay? Garage door windows, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I approve.
Can I get a motion to approve Mary's corrections?
I approve Mary's corrections.
Thanks,
All right.
Fran.
All in favor of approving February's minutes?
Aye.
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 Okay, Mr. Secretary, please note that the minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is old business, 2AR-122, revised plan for 65 Brookside Drive, Green Spark, a roof-mounted solar project. Okay, go ahead, please. Are they on?
There you go. Hello, Sean Mullen here again, coworker Matt Pione. So we're back. Basically, how I broke down this PDF, pages 1 or 2 are just kind of some project notes, address some of those questions you guys had last time. Pages 3 and 4 are the Glick 1 proposal, which is a new design we came up with. Page 5 is another design we came up with, Glick 2, and then Glick 3 is the original. In the last pages 8 through 11 are a conduit run kind of
So
sample.
what plan are you presenting?
So our preferred choice would be Glick number 1, so page 3 and 4.
Okay, Jeff, that is the plan that is going to be reviewed.
Yeah, I mean, he submitted another option, but this is the preferred one.
Yeah, we approved one, and that's what we're looking for. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Well, if one of the options is the former, the one presented that was tabled, I'd like to see that briefly so I can compare it to the new.
That'd be page 6 and 7. Yeah.
Right there.
So that was the one that you originally presented.
Correct.
I can't see where there's a panel and where there isn't over here.
So.
Oh, yeah,
there's-
okay,
yeah, perfect.
yeah, okay, got it. All right,
All right, will you go through your Glick 1, please?
Yeah, so this one, instead of having the 2 larger holes, we opted to keep them close, kind of tight to the roof fence. Not exactly centered, but we thought that'd be kind of a sharper option than having those 2 holes there. The west or the south facing array stayed the same, haven't adjusted any panels there. We explored options of moving some of those panels elsewhere on the roof, but it just didn't really make any sense production value wise. Just would be too inefficient.
So what is the height difference between your panel and those vents? The vent stacks.
So the panels come roughly, I would say, 4 to 5 inches off of the roof. And those roof boots are, roughly 10 inches. So it's
So do you have enough draft, or have you interfered with the airflow?
No, I don't think so, because those penetrations will come up above the panels themselves. So there shouldn't be any interference as far
Well,
as that
you're changing the dynamics by raising the surface by about 5 inches, so I just want to be sure of that.
But these are plumbing vents. These aren't air vents.
Right.
I know, they're
They
wet
serve,
stacks.
they serve as a vacuum breaker. They don't serve to continuously vent air, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Chris, but all right. Anyone have any questions?
I'd just like to ask if the intention is to align these top and bottom and have equal spacing between the groups.
The top and the bottom of the panel would be aligned. And yes, I mean, we're trying to keep them as tight to those vents as we can, you know, without it to kind of limit that gap, because I know that's kind of a unattractive look. So
Right, but what I'm asking is, your drawing is not showing equal spacing between the groups. So I was just wondering if your intention was to have equal spacing. One gap looks larger than the other one. It'd be nicer if they were the same width.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's definitely the intention. That's probably not shown accurately, is more a result of doing it in CAD. But yeah, the gap itself will be the same distance for each panel.
Any other questions?
I just
Yeah,
wanna
I'd like
go-
to know,
Casey?
sorry, I'd like to know about the conduit run, because it did appear that from the images, the last few pages, that there are still exposed conduits and actually going up and over the roof.
Yes, so this is kind of the worst case scenario. We just wanted to kind of illustrate that in case it did come to that. Ideally, option one is going to be to connect the arrays internally in the attic. But based on our SART survey, talking with the homeowner and the photos we have, it's going to be tricky. So just kind of wanted to show this as a worst case. And then ideally, we're going to attempt to do everything inside the attic, connecting it wise. But all the conduit down the roof, we could paint to match a color as close to the roof as possible in an effort to alleviate that kind of it popping out.
So if they do connect through the roof, say, you know, the front side of the house, penetration would go directly into the attic, and the conduit would then go where? Does it need to connect to the panels in the back half of the house, or do they just go separately to the box?
Correct. Yeah. So it would connect to that back array. And then from there, we'd punch out in the side, in the back of the house, excuse me, down the back wall. So it wouldn't be visible from the road or anything like that. Then punch into the basement and tie everything into the main service.
So what have you seen on site that makes you feel like you can't get into the attic and connect them all in, you know, below the roof?
Yeah, so they have another room on that top story that looks like it was built into the attic space. From what we can tell, it does connect, but it's tight. So, you know, our belief is that we can run everything internally. That's what we're going to attempt to do. We think that's possible, but in the off chance that the installers get there and they had some unforeseen circumstance back where, you know, we weren't able to get with the site survey, that would be, you know, an instance where we'd have to run the external conduit. But again, that's a last worst case scenario that I don't really foresee being the issue there.
Chris, you have any questions? Casey has.
No, I don't have any questions.
Andrew?
Yeah, my only question is, I mean, so the proposal, if we were to approve this evening, is that all conduits are running through the inside of the home except for the rear conduit run that would be on the exterior of the home. Is that's what I just heard, correct? And
That's
I realize that's okay. That's all you need. Yep. No, I'm good. Okay, the other questions have been answered that I had. Thank you.
Mary, are you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
I do have one question. Those spaces in between the panels. My concern is that catching any leaf litter and getting those caught underneath the solar panels, is that going to be a maintenance issue?
Not that we've come into contact with, there is enough standoff between the rail itself and the roof surface that really hasn't been an issue for us up to this point, just generally speaking. We tell people, that's one of the main selling points is that there's no real maintenance for them to do. We strongly discourage people from getting up there and having to clean out anything like that. Once again, I don't see that really being an issue here.
All right, well, thank you for presenting tonight. You can call Jeff in the office tomorrow or Jason and get our answer.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is 2AR-2-22.
Hi, this is Jeff Bell from Alliance Fleet. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Well, what we have here is there's an existing structure, existing kind of a barrier wall on this overhang area of our building on West Henrietta Road. And we're looking to duplicate it at the rear half of the building. So we're just literally duplicating what is at the front half of the building, which is just a framed wall with texture 111 siding on the outside. It's not a completely enclosed area. And the wall is actually, it's not a structural wall. It's literally just a barrier. It actually hangs from the overhang. It is not, there's no pressure on it. It doesn't even it does not make contact with the ground, other than just some footers that we had put in, just to give it some horizontal stability, so it just doesn't, move in and out at the base of the wall. There's actually two parts to our application. That's one of them. If you scroll down, you can see a couple pictures. We on the wall part itself, you can see there where there was no wall, and then you can see a little bit of the front half of the building where the existing wall currently is. If you can see through the fence, if you look down at the very bottom, you'll see like a shadowed area. That wall does not make contact with the ground either. Again, we're just trying to create a barrier here, and to be honest, we try to keep some of the birds out that make quite a mess on our equipment and what we store underneath there.
Okay.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was going to start the committee with questions. Casey?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Chris?
No questions here. Thank you.
Andrew?
Maybe I missed it, but what are you intending? Are you colorizing that wall panel? Right now, it appears that it's just a raw form of C111. Are you going T111? Are you going to paint that?
Yeah, it will be painted white like the front half is as well. Yeah.
Okay. And you say it's not connected to it is connected to the ground at your footer locations, but that bottommost horizontal board is raised off of the ground surface itself?
That is correct.
Howard, so what about snow and rain and things of that nature getting underneath that wall?
Well, I mean, it can, a little bit of snow can blow through there. It's pretty close. It's within a couple inches. It's not like it's 6, 8, 10 inches above the ground. It's just it's just a small distance there. So yeah, snow in particular is what with the front half of the wall. If we get a good blowing storm, we'll get a very small amount of snow that will blow underneath there. and come through. And the front half, which I don't think there's any pictures showing underneath the front half, we do put, we occasionally will put like some sandbags, or we'll put something across there occasionally, just to, if we feel like we have equipment in there that's, you know, that could be damaged by that in any way. But typically there's nothing like that that's getting damaged. It's just, we sell truck and van equipment, and that's the type of material that's stored underneath there.
So the overall intent, however, is that you're going to clad that entire wall, correct? There is no open portion except for where the door is located.
Yeah, there's a 16-foot gap between the front half of the wall and the second half of the wall that will remain open.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, why
Yes.
didn't you bring that wall all the way down to the ground? Why do you have that gap?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Honestly, we were just duplicating the very front half. When we started this, we didn't think there was going to be a permit issue because, again, it's a non-structural. We're not enclosing the area, totally enclosing the area off. So we had actually started the project, and there's other pictures that show that in the little presentation there. So we just, you know, again, we were trying to duplicate the front half. We didn't want it to didn't necessarily need it to make contact with the ground. Just, there was the parking lot, if you're familiar with the building at all, it's 2715 West Henry Road. It's the old Grossman's Mr. Second's Bargain Outlet lumber warehouse years ago. We have zero movement in our pavement back there. I can tell you throughout the winters that, you know, I've occupied this building since 2014 now. So it's a very, very solid surface. Even the footers that were put in, although I didn't put them in, we had a contractor do them. I mean, he was having a miserable time because they put the sonic tubes down in there. And he had a very, very difficult time getting the gas-powered auger bit to even get down to drill down into the ground. Yeah, he actually struggled with it quite a bit, to be honest with it. You know, so
Andrew, you all said, Andrew?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Mary?
Yeah, I wanted to know, how is that fascia attached at the bottom edge? You said that you're going to hang the new pieces of T111 off of the fascia, and I'm just wondering how is that attached?
well, it's a framed wall. If you can scroll down a little bit, there's some other pictures, I believe, in that presentation of what we had started to do, and you'll see right there. Okay, so it's a framed wall.
Okay.
So the T11 is all. Those are all 16 inches on center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And you'll
you.
see like in that picture, it's hard to see, but if you look, you'll see like a 2x4 or something that's underneath the wall. So you get a good idea of
Sure.
what the gap is there underneath the wall to the actual surface, asphalt surface.
Okay, thanks.
Brian?
Yeah, are you using pressure treated footers on that?
Yeah,
Or,
so
like you mentioned it was hanging, so I'm just looking at it
Yeah.
thinking, if you got
So-
it hitting the ground, you gotta have something there.
Yeah, so good question. So the footers were pressure treated, and the actual base plate is a 4x6 pressure treated board as well.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Okay, my only question is, this is wrapping around the corner? As it looks like
Uh,
your loading dock had a trellis sort of screen on it.
No, it's a perfectly straight wall. The far end, if you scroll up, you can see where that was closed
you-
off when
You
we took
closed
possession.
that in, right?
I'm sorry?
That was, you closed that in earlier?
No, that was closed in prior to us taking possession. Both ends are closed in. The back, the very back, which is what you're seeing in this picture, is framed. The front is actually actual cement block, it's cinder block.
Okay. Anyone have any more questions? Okay, you can call Jeff's office in the morning, get our answer.
Okay, and there's what is there any questions on the other part of this? Because there's a overhead door that's I want to make sure that we cover our bases on here. So if you go actually hung it, slide down, you would just slide down a couple of pictures. See
Yeah, I
that see that glass? That's a glass storefront there.
Mhm.
Those two sliding doors slide open. We're actually removing that and putting an overhead door in there. It's being done by Alliance Door. And in the drawings and in the application, there are mentions of it and all the work that needs to be done there as well. It's all
Okay,
part of the architectural drawings, and that's what they're showing here at the center.
okay,
Again, it's just a open the wood wall that is being put in. That's just suspended from the rafters. That's 16-foot opening
anyone have
there.
any questions on that? Okay.
Nope.
All right, you can call Jeff's office in the morning. We'll go from there.
Okay, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you. Have a
Yep.
great one.
You too.
Yeah, bye.
Next on our agenda is 2AR-3-22, revised plan for 90 Bradford Road, Third Rock Solar, a roof mounted solar system. Okay, anyone here from there?
Yes, Steve Reed's
Okay.
there. Hello there, everybody. All right, so first thing we addressed was, this is actually the old version. There you go, there's the new version. So what we did is the conduit runs are all concealed in the attic or in going down through the basement. The only spot where you will see any conduit at all will be in the back of the property, coming off the top roof right there, where it says access roof down. Yeah, if you point a little further, actually it's going to come right down in the corner right there between the two roof lines. Not there. Come on down right about there. Yes. So it's going to be coming down off of that roof. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the attic, and then we're going to run it down from the eave right there, straight down off of there. So it's going to be right in that corner there, and then it'll tie into the electric meter area right there where the meter is. So everything else will be, you won't see anything. We're bringing it. We found ways of doing it. We crawled up in these little attic spaces and found our way. So everything will be dropped through the roof, through with the solar decks, as far as that goes.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Casey?
No. I think my only question is more to the group. Did we have any comments about the layout of the panels, or was it just a conduit? I was just pulling up the minutes.
We did talk about the layout the last time.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
I'm trying,
one thing that we did here is that we try to consolidate. Customer wants to meet his needs. I mean, there's just no other way of doing this to be able to meet the customer's needs. And we tried to make it as appealing as possible. One of the issues that folks had with it the last time was the direction of the panels. Now all the panels are running in the same direction across the unit. I mean, across all of the surfaces as far as that goes. So they're all facing the same direction as far as that goes, even though the roofs are pitching in different directions.
What do you mean? I guess I'm seeing some that are vertical versus horizontal orientation.
Yeah,
Portrait or landscape, he means.
everything's in landscape, except for when we turn to the roofs going the other direction, those will be in portrait.
Okay, Casey, you all
Well-
set or no?
I mean, I guess from the ground perspective, you're not going to see them all in portrait, all in landscape as we're seeing it in a PDF. From the ground, you're going to
Right,
see some that are
yeah.
horizontal, some that are vertical.
There's no way of changing that. And I mean, I could change them to make them go all the same direction, or what we can do is we could take and go the other, just kind of figure out which way is the best. I don't know. I mean, I personally think this would probably look the best on the house.
And then what about the one roof? I don't know, bottom left-hand corner roof. It's so hard in Zoom. You got two on one side of the ridge, two on the other side of the ridge.
Right.
Why can't they go both on the right side? Maybe flanking the dormer.
Well, because we're going to lose production on the opposite, because that's kind of an east-west exposure. I mean, we could do that. I think that would, I mean, a customer would be open to that.
I just know that was one of the odd ones where it's like you got two that don't relate to each other on opposite sides of the roof.
Yep. I mean, again, we're trying to maximize production for the customer also.
Well, we understand that, but our purview is also to make a cohesive layout.
Well, you're not going to see them both at the same time as far as that goes either, because they're on separate sides of the roof.
Do you have a 3D model of this house with the
No,
panels?
we don't do 3D. We don't do 3D modeling.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Casey, are you all set?
Yes.
Chris?
I mean, I was going to ask just out of curiosity. I mean, Casey kind of drilled into it, but you know, it is odd when you got roofs, even though they're coming together like this, and some panels are like this, some are like this. It doesn't bother me terribly. I was curious if that was just to kind of make the best yield out of it. I couldn't open. I've been trying to open the previous submission to understand what the comment was about the panels not. Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what's going on there. Okay. No, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Andrew?
No, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Mary?
No, I just wanted to point out that the comments were the layout of panels is erratic. Vertical and horizontal layout on the same roof plane is awkward. That's been corrected. Conduit is substantially invisible. That has been corrected. So the first comment was layout of panels is erratic. So that would be kind of like what we're looking at here. Is it less erratic and sufficiently so? That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
And I believe the gutters were also moved on that roof.
Yes, they are.
Oh,
The
right,
gut-
right.
The gutters were moved. Gutters were totally moved to each end of that roof.
Okay. All set.
So that-
Thank you.
So now it looks nice and clean between the two of them.
Okay, great.
So I have no questions at this time, but
You see the gutter in this picture right here.
Fran, I think I missed you.
It's
Sorry.
fine. If I had a question, I would have spoke up. Thank you, Stuart. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. I have no questions, but you can call Jeff's office in the morning to get our response.
Thank you, everybody. You all
Yep,
have a good
thank
night.
you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming back.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
All right, on to new business. 3AR-1-22, 55 Middlebrook Lane, Dwayne and Brenda Smolin. Construct a new front porch on existing single-family dwelling. Are the Smullins here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, welcome.
Thank you.
I don't see my video up, but that's okay. Is that working, Jeff, or not?
The video's not, but we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we've this summer will be our 40th year at this address. I've been here for a while and made a few changes, but one of the changes I've been wanting to make for some time now is putting a front porch on. And a few years ago, that was accented by the folks across the street that put a front porch on that has us looking at that all the time, wishing, gee, I wish I had one too. So this year, things have come around that we'd like to try to get that porch on. And I made up some drawings of the overall. And the house has a 2-story section, and the porch we wanted to just put against that two-story portion. And we started out with basically the floor being the full width of the 2-story section. And then we worked on the placement of the post and the rail and placed them appropriately against the footprint of the floor. And then when going up, we looked at the house, and there is vinyl siding on there now, but the upper windows, there is a convenient break in the siding that is just below that. So we wanted to maintain that few inches there below the window to give it appropriate flashing and space to work for the roofing and flashing, and still maintain a piece of the yellow siding under the upper windows. So that was our height constraint. Looking at all that, it still netted me the option of getting a 412 pitch on there, because we're in Rochester and it may snow. So the 412 pitch is from the house out. And then we wanted to put a hip roof on there rather than the triangular shaped end caps. And on that, we sort of looked at it and tried a few different pitches on there and decided the 812 pitch on the each end worked best to align the ridge going up through between the two, the hip, to a point conveniently spaced by the edge of the windows and shutter structure in the upper story. And looking at the overall scale, you can see where the outboard edge of the shutters is about where that roof line would meet. So looking at that scale, that also looked like an appropriate shape. If you get to a 4, it's very short, or a 10, it's too steep, and that's why we decided on those angles for the front face. So now the materials, I give quite a bit of information there in the package. We're going to be using the PVC material that they come up with today that's better than a paintbrush against the old wood, because there's a lot of maintenance involved with that. So I wanted to use as much of the PVC trim materials as I could. So there's liners for the columns, which would be PVC sleeves that would go over the columns, and also the porch floor. The flooring material would be the ASICS type or TimberTech flooring, which is a porch flooring, and all the other stuff as far as the framework would be banded off with trim material that would be the PVC type trim boards, both, and it's basically in white for all the trim. For the fascia and under the floor there and all the posts and rails, everything's going to be white, and the roofing would be the same as the main house, and that's readily available. Shouldn't be a problem matching that. And
well, thank you, Casey. Do you want to start with our questions?
Sure. Right now, my biggest concern looking at the drawings is I think the perimeter of your fascia and even the way that you drew the section overall is going to be too low. Because looking at the section that you provided, what we're seeing as being the bottom of that, that fascia board really is the bottom of your roof structure. And that is definitely lower than your windows and your doors. So at first I noticed it just from a low head to height perspective, only about 6'9", 6'8".
Right.
Then diving into your exterior elevations between the drawings and the photos, I think not only are you actually going to be lower than your window, but you're definitely going to lose all of your trim above your windows and your doors.
The one comment that I would have is the inside, the ceiling in the porch is going to follow the rafters. It'll be inclined up. It will not be a level ceiling. If it was a level ceiling, you're entirely correct, but I'm going to pitch it up. That's another reason we went with the hip roof on the angle that it is, because it brings it outboard of the doors and the windows and everything is still there. All the front facade is still good. So
Okay.
there's.
So the
there
section
is
that
the-
you provided is literally cut right at, I mean, it's cutting through the roof. So where's the section taken?
I did not have a drawing that showed the underside of the porch roof, but it would be just the thickness of the roofing material. It would just be, like 7-8 inches down from the window
I think
where the ceiling would be.
if I might interject, I'm sorry, but I think thinks you're talking about head clearance, and I think you're talking about visual. Is that right, Casey?
Well, no, I really was talking about,
Okay, sorry.
and both. I mean, you're on that too, Mary. I was more looking at the walls, at the section through the porch, which is cutting through the rafter and showing horizontal beams and supports.
Yeah, Jeff,
That's
if you were
6 foot max.
to scroll down another.
Yeah,
3 or
page
4
11.
There you go.
Yeah. So we were
Oh,
saying, for this-
that's just the support structure for the roof on the outboard ends. That's just the short wall for the rafters to come down with on the hip ends.
Yeah.
It's completely open. That's also going to be angled up inside.
okay. All right.
So it's all completely open inside.
Okay, that helps. So at least, I mean, technically it works. Visually, personally, I don't like that it's getting that low and it is cutting off your, it is a lower datum point than your windows and your doors. So, aesthetically, I don't like that. I'm glad it at least physically works. And I'm not, go ahead.
The other comment I might make is our house sits up on a hill. So between the street and the front of the house is about measured it at 42 inches of grade change. So you're going to be looking up at it. So you're going to be looking up and see the full window and doors and everything from the street.
Okay. And how are you finishing?
I did not hear that, Jeff.
How are you going to finish the underside? So what's the finished ceiling?
The ceiling, we was looking at beadboard.
Okay. All right.
Just going on the direct underside of the rafters with beadboard, and it would be on that incline following the 412 pitch or the 812 pitch in each direction.
Okay. My other question was, right now, is the line of your porch, are you essentially aligning with your garage roof line? I see that that's lower. Will they be in the same datum or are they not going to match?
I did not look at that specifically, but yeah, they're very close. I didn't measure that because usually when I was working on this, I just had the house. The garage was basically not in my screen, so
Right.
I just put it there just for the overall. So
Right.
I didn't reference that, but it's very close. You can see there is a short distance differential between the dining room, which is to the left,
Mhm.
and the porch, and that continues around. There's a the difference. The garage is actually lower than the dining room, so the garage would be very close to the porch, but I don't have the exact measurement on it.
Okay. All right.
It's like within an inch. It's close, very close.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Chris?
So I'll start first off. I think in concept, this is really nice, right? I can really appreciate being able to sit out there and have a nice space facing east, get some morning sunshine. And Casey covered a lot of the questions I was going to ask because I too was drawn to the low edge of the roof as shown on the elevation. with respect to the window heights and door heights. I'm not convinced that 3'6" of grade change from the street to the house is steep enough that it's going to mitigate that. I think it's still going to look low, but that's my opinion. My question though too, I saw some differing dimensions from the top of the porch to the underside of the beam that supports everything. So for example, on page 2 of 20, there's 6'8" and 3/16. On page 3, the same dimension. Oh, I see. That's taken to the bottom. So
Yeah,
a quarter. Oh, I see.
there's probably a different
And there
day's
was
work in it.
there was another one.
Yeah, one is from the ground up and the other one is from floor up.
But the 6'9" and 13/16 was taken from the top of the ledger board, or rim joist rather, on page 11. Anyway, those are kind of minor. I guess I was trying to figure out what was going
Yeah,
on. with
there
that.
was
But
different
overall,
references.
right. Overall, I do think it's a bit low. I'm also curious how you're going to finish the back side of this, where the sides of the shed go out past the edge of your house a little bit. That seems a bit odd. So if you look at the elevation on page 2.
And if you're
Yeah, so I
putting
was that triangular piece would just be finished off with the trim material, and they was gonna put a gutter on, starting at the garage side, wrapping around the front to the back. And there was a photo of the house prior that shows there is a downspout right down through that corner. Is there one more photo at the north end of the house? That one there. So the intent was to bring the gutter around to join this downspout here. So it's out of the public side, it's around the back corner.
So as you were looking at the different pitches on the hips, did you also look at the outer columns of the porch coming in, or were they always aligned with the corner of your house?
The columns were placed inboard from the edge of the flooring, appropriate distance from both the front and the end to bring the corners in. And then
let me rephrase the question. The length of the porch seems to be generally the same as the length of that side of the house.
That is true. That was our initial reference point, and we'd said, well, make the floor that size and then work off of that.
Because what it does then too, you'll notice on the elevation, the door isn't centered between the columns, the end window isn't centered between the columns. I think visually it's a bit awkward coming to that edge. And you've answered the question. You basically started with that footprint and didn't look at any other variation of that.
Well, the corner posts were put in place, and then the others were just evenly spaced to make it thirds. And that post is only 5.5 inches wide compared to the overall span. It is a minimal cross section.
I get that. If the question has been answered, right? You didn't look at bringing it in 1 or 2 feet on each end to see how that resolved the roof or how that might have resolved the proportions. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Also, there's a railing down each side, which is shown in some of the videos. On each end is a rail section that goes from the front post back to a short post near the house. So there's railing back there, and then the railings in the other 2 sections. Yep. Which is another reason to place a post out there for the railing.
Andrew?
Yeah, I would echo the commentary that you've heard thus far. I'm not convinced that the underside height of the porch is correct in relationship to the remainder of the home. Dropping this down, you've got a garage eave height, then you have your main house height, and now you have your porch heights, and none of them are on the same plane. I do also agree that I believe it's short. It looks as if there's not enough headroom of your porch itself. And I too am concerned about the roof line coming over each end of the home. And it looks like it actually even extends beyond the eave that you have on your upper roof. So it's even longer than your upper roof line itself. I would suggest that you take a look at trying to foreshorten that so you don't have those triangular issues looking from the rear of the house toward the front. And also it brings it into better proportion with the home. And I would also look at raising this so is in the same plane as your first floor is, which I presume the first floor elevation continues to that room to the left of the slide that we have up right now. It looks squat, and it's going to appear that way in real life, if not even worse than what we see with the direct head-on relationship that we see right here. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mary?
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, can you leave that image there? Jeff, thank you. I agree with what's been said. It's kind of like a hat, worn low on the brow here. And I think the fact that you decided to use a hip roof, which is questionable in my opinion, because every other roof in the house is a shed roof, makes that roof even appear more weighty and a little bit more than what that porch needs. And as far as the coming around the corner, if you can go to the front to the elevation again, Jeff, please. That problem of the door not being centered, have you considered coming around that corner in the front with a little more railing, possibly another post, so that you have an equal space on either side of the door before you get to a post? It's an extra post or an extra piece of railing. So I think you did a great job putting this application together. I don't understand the rationale for the hip roof, and I agree with my colleagues about it being a little low on the brow.
Can I comment, Jeff?
Are you all set, Mary?
Yeah, I wanted him to comment on why the hip roof.
Well, aesthetically for us, it was preferred for the hip versus that triangular shaped piece on the end cap. I have no siding. The siding was put on so many years ago that it's faded. I'd never match the siding. And the height inside, because it does angle up, there's almost 2 foot above the door before you hit the ceiling. It is quite a lot inside that is open. The overhang on the ends is because I went to a common soffit depth, which is common to the rest of the house between the dining room and the garage, which has basically the 1 foot soffit. If I bring that in, I be putting a constraint on that. So that's what brought it out that far, is to get it consistent with the other soffit dimensions for uniformity on, as you're sitting there looking up on the underside of the dining room or garage would be 1 foot, or I wanted to be consistent with the porch. And it's a minimal difference really between the upper roof and the porch roof. It may not be shown accurately here, but anyway, that soffit span and the fact that it is almost 2 foot above the door, there's plenty of room inside.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
Beyond everything that's said, I only had one thing to ask, that the distance between the porch floor and the ceiling right now, as it's written, is around 81 inches, which is around a standard door height. Is there and I'm asking this generally, is there a distance that's preferred for like a minimum distance that's preferred between a porch floor and a porch height if it's covered? Is it 7 feet? Is it 8 feet?
I think
because right now he's at
7.4 might be the minimum.
7.4. Okay. So, and just looking at this, that might be something to consider. We're saying it's around 80 to 81 inches, but if you have nothing to nothing to go against in terms of what it should be, then, you know, raising it a couple inches might not be enough. So I would definitely look at that to see what the minimum should be. I think that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, Fran?
I have nothing more to add than what's been said. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple things to add. One, you mentioned gutters. So those troughs will end up widening your berth here on your roof edge. The other is I'm not real clear on how you're going to lag the upper part of the roof into your wall, which is a concern. The other thing I don't believe you've done is taken into consideration your dimensions and materials, just by your odd numbered callouts on your measurements. The other thing I don't think you took into consideration is your grade away from the front of the house. As you talk about this drop of grade to the street, you got positive drainage, but your drawing is linear. And so that needs to be considered, because I don't think it's going to be built as it's drawn due to conditions on site. The other thing is I noticed you got a gas line just to the right side of the porch. Have you checked your other utilities? Are you going to be interfering with any of your water or electric coming into the house?
Is somebody typing, and can you mute, please? Because it's making a lot of noise.
And then the other thing I've got to ask is, are you going to have any lights underneath? And what will that do, especially with your door swings and things? One of the biggest concerns I have is a Spinnaker effect, and I've seen this with different structures where the wind gets caught up underneath, and basically it doesn't function well, and will start to pull away if it's not correctly engineered. Those are my comments. I think you are welcome to call Jeff in the morning and get our response.
Can I make a couple of comments, Jeff?
Well, you can ask me.
Oh, okay, Stuart. A couple of things here on that height there above the beam. The beam height there is at restricted height of 6'8" or 6'9". That was brought down to allow for some span of the beam below the soffit area. I could raise that up a little.
I think the engineer for the town will probably review this and have his input. So,
and the grade is not a problem. As I said, there's a pitch that goes from the house out, and this would be appropriate to make a uniform step between the house to the porch and the porch to the sidewalk.
well, my position on this is you've got a height of 8 inches, 8 1/4 inches, I believe it is. That's an odd dimension for material. And then you're probably going to have a gap underneath that by a couple inches because of the grade. That's
Truth
what
be
I'm
known,
getting at.
that 8 1/2 is a 7 1/4 for the 2x8, and then a 1 inch thick flooring is what that is denoting there. And that would be actually below grade as it stands now. I'm going to have to regrade this to get it down to that level.
Okay, so that's another thing I think you're going to have to deal with, the uniform across your front yard. So, so those are the things I think you need to look at, and along with what everyone else has commented. You can call Jeff's office in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is 3AR-2-22. 1905 South Clinton Avenue, 1925.
I'm here, Stuart. Thank you. It's Paul Colucci with the
Hi,
Marshall
Paul.
Group. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm on a call right now, Jeff. Can I give you a call back in?
Is somebody typing? There's this horrible.
No, I think it's someone's on a phone. So
Well, I think it's Andrew.
Andrews.
If we can get his attention.
I hear him hunting and pecking or something. Paul.
Hi, Mary. Hi, everybody. Thanks for seeing our application again. I have with me Nate Rotzi from Rotzi Architects. This is the third time that we've been before you folks, and I'm hoping that we've been good listeners and got the elevations that balance what we'd like to see from ownership standpoint, what we're working on with tenants, multiple tenants that will be occupying this building, and what hopefully meets satisfactory with the Architectural Review Board. I'm going to let Nate lead it off and just describe, what we responded to, what modifications we made. And then knowing you have a lengthy agenda here, we'll keep it brief and hopefully be able to answer any questions you folks have.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul. So some of the comments, most of the comments that we heard were relative to the street side, the South Clinton elevation, which Jeff has up here on the screen, a rendering of. So changes that we've made here are to mimic the parking lot facade as far as having taller corner elements that will, we think, better address as you're driving along South Clinton. We have broken up the eyebrow projected elements as well and tried to create a rhythm with the openings. Materiality, we've got at the base a nice simulated limestone base with a projected sill. Above that, we have EPIS brick coming up to an aluminum coping. We have anodized storefront along with a kind of a tinted glass proposed here. And then the two tones of the EPIS brick.
Is that everything, Paul?
Yeah, maybe just, Jeff, if you can go to that drawing right there, actually go back one to the floor plan. So, previously, I think what we heard, albeit, we didn't get any comments, we were denied back in January. So it was hard to ascertain what you were looking for. But I remember hearing in the comments that we got last time that the street facing facade wasn't cohesive. And what we tried to do here was basically take, as Nate said, the front of the building that faces the parking lot that faces west, and we mirrored that to the east elevation. And we took those same elements that are on the true front of the building or where the tenant entries are, and we mirrored them to the street facing side. Those same elements were reflected on the east side, trying to, in our mind, be more cohesive as it relates to that street facing facade. All of the glass that is shown on the elevations is proposed to be vision glass. I know we had some dialogue and some concern relative to what is going to be spandrel, what is not going to be spandrel. Rather than show anything spandrel at this time, we're proposing that as landlords building this shell that's going to be occupied by multiple tenants, and tenants move in and tenants move out, we are proposing that all the glass that we're showing you is vision glass. That would be a tinted glass that is shown on the architectural material palette. The only door that is not going to be a storefront door is the mechanical room door that's shown on this side. We know clearly that no one wants to look in and see an RPZ backflow preventer, that type of stuff. We do know Starbucks, the way that their store is going to lay out, given that the drive-through is on the north side, that they would likely and will build across and frame across those openings, and we will work with them to conceal and have an opaque tint on the inside of that storefront window, just given that there is no opportunity for them to present to the north elevation, given how their typical cafe lays out. But every other tenant is going to have an opportunity to have engagement with the the street facing facade or street facing side. And, you know, I gave some thought to this as I was trying to figure out how can we give a fair amount of attention to this side, even though it is truly the back of the building and it will be serving back of house functions. You know, and I drove over to 12 Corners and I looked at that building, and, you know, much like 12 Corners, there's parking all around the building. There's clearly a side that faces public engagement on all four sides, and how do they deal with it? And I think we're going to have to deal with it in the same way. There's going to be some tenants who need to conceal certain things, just the way that they merchandise their store. And as tenants move in and move out, that changes over the course of time. We want the opportunity for tenants to be able to have vision glass that presents to the exterior on all four sides. But if they cannot functionally operate within that and need to conceal just because there may be back of house activities that are not attractive, that they may have to conceal that. So, you know, that's what we've been trying to work through, and you know, we hope that this is addressing your previous concerns. We'd like to, you know, gain your consensus tonight and be able to get back before planning board in April for our approvals so that we can get this building constructed. I do have a lease with Starbucks, and they're very excited to come to this location.
Thank you, Paul. Casey, do you have any questions? Comments?
Yep, just a couple of questions. I do appreciate adding vision glass and doors and entryways to the Clinton side. Simple question for the east elevation, the kind of two sets of doors at the end tenants. Is there a reason why they're all different sizes? Each one has a large door and a narrower door?
Yeah,
The tenant requirement.
Yep, tenant requirement on the Starbucks side, Casey, the right or the northernmost door on that east elevation is a requirement of theirs to be a 42-inch door, because that's their back of house where they take deliveries. So that is, and we tried to balance that and mirror it on the southerly-most door facing that side, so that it maintained that cohesive look.
Understood. Okay. And then for the south elevation, can you just talk about the two sets of windows that actually go down to grade versus stopping at the sill like the rest of them? And
Yeah,
kind of what the design thought was.
Yep, on the site plan, there's actually a patio that is flanking those windows. So given that we hope that we can tenant that with a tenant who would have use for an outdoor seating area, that engagement we felt would be more appropriate to have the glass go all the way down to grade versus to the sill height as the other locations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chris.
So I'll start with a softball. There's a canopy over the service door on the side that faces Clinton. And I'm wondering, did you look at not doing a canopy at that door? Because it feels like it's drawing attention to something that we're trying to make go away. Did you look at that or consider that?
Yeah, we did. Actually, Nate and I wrestled with photoshopping that in and out. And you know, there is no requirement like the other service doors. Most of the nationals have a requirement for some type of cover over it to prevent, you know, the weather from intruding in. I don't have any issue if you felt it was more appropriate and it drew less attention to eliminate that. Quite frankly, in reality, that's right about where Starbucks menu board is going to be in the foreground, Chris. And you're going to, you know, wind up having this visual barrier that as you're looking perpendicular straight at the building, you're not even going to see that door or that canopy. So if we felt it was more applicable or more appropriate, I don't have any issue with eliminating that canopy.
Okay. Can you help me understand a little better? So you, first of all, you're talking about a tint on the glass. Is this just a color tint, or is this more opaque? How translucent, transparent is this tint?
I'm going to let Nate handle that one. It's not intended to introduce any opacity other than the color of the glass is on a more tinted side so that it's closer to the black anodized aluminum. And Nate can probably give you a lot better answer than I just did.
No, that's exactly right.
Holy cow.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened there. Got the
Is it
demon voice.
highly reflective, or is it what? I mean, Nate, you can even throw technical specs at me, and I might understand what your glass selection is there.
Sure, you'll get some reflectivity from the low E, so that generally will give you some reflectivity, and then the dark tint on the other surface of the glass will help give it some of that depth. So I think Jeff has pulled up here some example, and you can really see, I think, some of the intent in both the rendering and the glass itself, where you can see through it a bit. You do see the low E gives that reflectivity, but it is darker.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's such an oblique angle what exactly an intent there is, and if that were to be more like a mirrored glass, or is this just like I can't think of the, I could probably pull a sample kit. It'd be really helpful to see a sample of that glass. But the point is, this is going to let light through at night. It's going to let you see in during the day to a degree.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Paul, you had said that at 12 corners, there were areas of glass that had been framed over because of the tenant inside. I'm not familiar with those openings that you're talking about. Which tenant did you say had framed over their glass?
Yeah, I drove around there, Chris, and whether it's on the parking lot side in the rear or the street facing facade, there's different tenants that just have opaque concealing elements on the inside of their glass, and whether it's like opaque screening or I didn't go into any of the spaces, but as these buildings get tenanted and re-tenanted, sometimes where we as landlords place all of the storefront and all of the architectural elements align perfectly with the depth the tenant wants, sometimes we need to bring a framed wall right to a mullion, and that may not work out with how they're merchandising the inside, so they want to conceal something so they can put a gondola or a fixture or something on the inside of that, storefront.
I guess you're using 12 corners as a precedent, and I'm not familiar with any glass there that's been framed in front of. And I frequent the 12 corners, and I can't think of a single instance of that.
Chris, if I may add, there may be a different level of tint at the banks there from a security standpoint. I'm not sure, but I remember reviewing those banks, the bank on the corner in the past, and I believe they may have had some security elements in it. But
well, so
I don't know. I don't know if that's what he's talking
venue
about.
that Paul is referencing. What venue are we talking about?
I don't know what he's referencing.
Right, I'm asking Paul.
Yeah, and specifically, I think it was, I'm just pulling up Google real quick to see if I can get a street view, but it's on the front side. There's portions of what was the Great Harvest Bread Company that had some screening in the windows that was concealing some portions of the inside. As you came around, some portions of Panera have more, window advertising in them that are concealing certain things inside. And, our goal is to create a building that has, architectural elements and openings that present engagement on all sides, if we can get the tenants to lay out that way. I just know, the difference between 12 Corners, well, it's, an example that I could drive to and look at, the biggest difference there is there's parking between the right of way and that building. So all the fronts are facing the street. And, we're struggling to try and make the back of this building look like something that in some ways is a little forced, just given the fact that it's got to serve a back of house functionality. So, our goal, Chris, is that we're going to put all the glass in as vision glass. And, we may need to, from time to time, have tenants that have certain concealing elements that don't present that as true vision glass. I don't think that there's any way other than eliminating the storefront elements facing South Clinton, but I don't think that prevents that allows what you were hoping to see, which is a street facing facade.
Are you aware of any tenant needs right now that are going to frame out in front of the glass that's shown along Clinton?
No, there will not be any framing in front of the glass facing South Clinton. The only tenant that I know is going to have interior functions that won't have any use for those windows at the north elevation is the Starbucks. Just, you've been in a Starbucks cafe, you know how they function on the drive-through side. That's where their back of bar is.
So is all the glass on the north side going to be spandrel or framed or anything, or is it just where we're closer to the drive-through window?
The on the north elevation, obviously the drive-through bump will be vision glass. The store front to the right of that will be vision glass. The two punch windows east of the bump will be framed in front of. That's their back of house and their back bar area.
Okay, so the two left-hand side were there and there.
Yep, that's correct.
That's going to be non-vision.
That's right.
But then along Clinton, at least for Starbucks, is Starbucks the only tenant that you have a layout for interior wise right now?
Yep.
And that will remain vision at Starbucks. And then the hope is that the vision that's been provided for the other tenants would remain vision, but you don't know.
That's right. That's right. Our hope is that, yes, we can work with them in a manner that they're able to present some element that is attractive to the South Clinton side. But if it becomes, the back of house kitchen area or something like that, it's likely going to want to be concealed just from a practicality standpoint.
Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank you, Chris. Andrew?
Well, I guess I'd go, thank you very much for taking another look at this. I like the direction this has taken thus far. I do agree with the commentary about the overhang over the mechanical room door. I think that does draw some attention to it, and I would definitely be in favor of supporting removal of that canopy to try to draw attention away from that zone. Correct me if I'm incorrect. There's a sidewalk that goes along the entire east elevation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
There's a sidewalk.
So from a functional standpoint, those doors that are there could function for any of your tenants. But knowing very well, you're in a drive-through lane situation. So you're not going to, unfortunately, it's going to potentially look proper, but the eventuality is going to be nobody's going to be using those doors. And that's one of those unfortunate challenges that you have on this particular site. I do like the way that the doors are repeating themselves. I see, and I don't have an issue with the glass panels that you're proposing. These are the same as what's in the front of the structure, correct?
That's
The
correct.
exact same windows all the way around the structure, aside from the ones that Chris just mentioned and we just talked about. So I think that all, quite honestly, I think that all works out pretty well. The only question I really had was it had to do with material itself, the limestone veneer, the Craft material. I know we've seen this before. This is what's been proposed on all the other structures in this development. Is that correct?
We've used it in a lot of our other developments. The only building that we have here right now is Doodlebugs. It doesn't have that Craft, that limestone base, but we've used this, and there's some lessons learned. The base course is a sulfite resistant first course of it that is specifically engineered to withstand the salt that we take in these climates, and then the upper courses are more porous, but they look the same. It's just price per unit is grossly more expensive on that first course.
Okay. And I know that we reviewed this before, but the coping material that goes on top of that Craft level is what? Is that just another piece of that same material?
It's a precast sill.
Okay. Yeah, I do like the way that this is evolving and coming together here, and I don't have any other questions.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andy. Mary?
I have to, can you go back to the facade, please, Jeff? The east, west, sorry. I don't agree with what my colleagues said about the overhang. I think that most people are going to be experiencing this driving down the road at a certain speed, and the hole in the center is going to be more obvious, I think, without the canopy. That's my personal opinion. The other thing is, of course, you put the parking lot behind the building and no good deed goes unpunished. So I guess I'm just asking, have you thought about dumpster locations?
Yep, we did, and that's shown on a site plan. I don't know if Jeff, if you
Yeah,
have
I guess, yeah, thanks. I guess I looked at it earlier, but I forgot to look at that detail.
Yeah,
Do we have the site?
I don't know if Jeff
I
can
can get
call
one.
it up, but
Okay.
it is shown on the south side of the building, just
Okay.
given the reality of what I'm dealing with, all around it. That's practically the only location I can put it, Mary.
Yeah.
We are proposing that the materials for that dumpster enclosure are a composite board on board material that matches the exterior of the building. So
the west side, you're hoping to have an outdoor seating area, and on the east side of that facade, you're hoping to have the dumpster enclosure.
yep, yeah, if
Okay.
Jeff can zoom in and show it. Just given the fact that there's no true back of house here, we settled on that location as the most practical location, and the ability for tenants to be able to access it. As Andy was describing, there's a sidewalk along that east side. So that's really a service sidewalk to the dumpster enclosures and for their ability to load in the back house.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Mary. Brian?
For the tenant signage that's shown on the east elevation, are those going to be lit under the soffits or above, under the canopies on those sides?
Are the canopies going to be underlighting on the canopies? Is that the question?
So, well, yeah, on the soffits you've got tenant signage. I'm just wondering how those are going to be lit, and then you've got tenant signage. One is shown, the smaller one is shown above the canopy on the right-hand side, and then the other side. Just curious how those were going to be lit, and are they going to be treated the same way on the east elevation as they would be on the opposite side?
So the tenant signage would be internally illuminated or halo illuminated, depending on, you know, what the tenant's identity is. I'm not proposing any soffit lighting in the canopies, and the incentive zoning approvals we received on this site allow for primary signage over the tenant entry side, which would be on the east elevation, and secondary tenant identification, 50% of the size allowed on the front is allowed for a second sign on the street facing facade.
Okay, so on that note, are they going to be treated the same way, basically, even though you're saying one is 50% smaller than the other one? Are they going to both be lit, or is one going to be not lit? I guess that's my question.
No, they would both be lit. You know, given the tenants want the sign to be visible, you know, during the day and evening hours when you know, we're in that condition. But yeah, we envision that they're both internally illuminated or halo lit in some fashion.
Okay. I don't have anything further to add.
Thank you, Brian. Fran?
No, I have nothing more to add. Thank you.
Yeah, I have nothing to add either. Paul, I want to thank you for presenting, and you can call Jeff's office in the morning to get our answer.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is 3AR-322, 36 Midland Ave, James Kruger, construct an addition to the side of an existing single-family dwelling. Are the Krugers here?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is an addition, a first floor master suite for Jim and Karen Coffey. Recently, they combined a couple lots this past year. They had multiple lots running down to put this addition in. Again, elderly, and they'd like to not keep going up and down the steps. So another thing is just for a front facade look is right now the entry door is currently from the side of that gable that you see the current door, and there's a window there, and so they really want a little front porch. So we're gonna put a little front porch to put 2 chairs on there with an overhang, so you're can sit out and enjoy the nice little cul-de-sac they're in. And also if someone's at the door and it's raining out, they're not getting rained on. So instead of having the living room go right into the master suite, we're putting in a little, I don't know, I'm gonna call it kind of a common room. They're gonna probably put a little table in there and have a little seating area, place to play with the grandkids. But it just kind of creates a buffer from the main master bedroom area. The roof lines are a little tricky, but my architect worked on getting the roof line set to kind of go with the look of the house, and we're going to pull the clapboard cedar on the front around to the addition. The back structure, the original back structure, has a stucco kind of look, so it should look really nice with the new siding. And in the front facade, you kind of see a larger opening where the transom window is up in the master bedroom area to the right. We're going to plant, there's some right now, some nice plants, but we're going to plant something there. That's basically where the back of their headboard of their bed's going to be. And so we'll do something landscape wise to kind of fill that space in, but it kind of made sense inside the structure on how we wanted that to go and where they wanted to place the bed. And yeah, any questions?
Casey?
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll start with this facade. Talk to us about the change in roof lines. The top of the roof seems to pop up over the addition versus where it's coming into the house.
Yeah, it's kind of a little, for looking a little deceiving from the front. I don't know if we can go to the side elevation, the second floor roof. You can see the dormer areas with that shallower pitch on the main house and then the steeper pitch. Our goal is to completely avoid that. And so that little transition room we talked about is going to have that pitch you see in the dotted lines in the background. To avoid the existing roof. Yep, right where that kind of mouse, that little triangle there. And it's really deceiving that originally, I don't know when this addition was put on, long time ago, and it was just added to the front of the house. So when you look at the front elevation, it looks like it's all in line, but that front where the front door is, and it really comes out, and even the 3 windows in the middle of the main house is out probably a good 16 feet. So from the front, it looks like it's a very, nice looking Cape Cod that is all in line, but in reality, already from the original front addition that was put on years ago, the back main structure is back further. So our goal was to avoid the existing roof and be able to create nice overhangs that kind of match the similar pitch to what was currently on the house. We had a couple of renditions that we came up with, but we felt, and the homeowners felt, that this one was the most visually appealing for the.
Well, so obviously looking at straight on an elevation, it's just, it's a negligible difference, but then thinking about it also in plan and 3D, now you're saying the peak of the roof of your addition is forward of kind of where your shed roof is coming into the existing house, at least looking at the side elevation where they're dashed in.
Yeah.
So theoretically now on your addition, you've got part of your roof coming down, coming down and hitting, I don't know, what is that, like, what does that end up looking like? Like, is that dying into the wall? Is that somehow leveling out, going flat? Like, what is this intersection as that comes across and meets the house?
I guess I'm having a hard time seeing, go back to the front elevation if you could, Joe.
If I could interject,
Yeah.
look at the picture on page 6 of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we go. That kind of helps. So that little intermittent room between the spaces, the water will draft onto the roof that's kind of coming at us at an angle there and pick up on the gutter to come out. It's back further. I guess it's that a little sitting room is actually kind of where that old deck is. It's roughly that size. So Kip designed it so that when that water's there, it'll pitch away, and then we can do the main gable for the bedroom.
Right now, your new roof goes over that space.
Yes, at an angle, at not a very steep angle, just because we wanted to, again, not hit the overhang from the existing house, main part of the house. Is there another good, like a front, another picture that we can look at? Yeah, it doesn't really help out as much. Is there any other ones? Oh, here we go. So again, coming off the side, there'll be a shallow pitch that will come onto the existing bump out, and you can see where that window with the eyebrow window above it is where the new door is going to be, and that overhang will be also extended out to give them that front porch that they wanted.
Okay. I'm not sure it works that well, but I'll take your word for it for now. Explain what happens on the side right now. So the bump out that's become, yes, picture, go back, one more. Go back one more, there you go. Where the main entrance is right now, what's happening with that door in that area?
In that area.
Well, is the door staying?
No, that door is going to go, and the new door is going to go in the front where the window is with the eyebrow, and that's just going to be sided. That's going to be sided over. They're going to do one of those little pottery varnish, little areas to hang jackets and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's a solid wall then with the new siding.
Just like the opposite side of it. Well, the opposite side has a little man door to go in, but yeah, that's not really going to be anything that we're going to do anything.
Okay.
New entry in the front.
I will say on my personal perspective, I do struggle a little bit with the obvious master, the bed with the, from the outside that the bed is right there on your front facade. But I do understand this is kind of a dead end street. So I'm not really sure who's gonna see that.
They're the last one on the street. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Looking at it, I think only a neighbor might see part of that. I don't love that, but considering the site, I won't belabor it. I do want to clarify on the side elevation. So page 4. Page 4 right now doesn't really match the plan. So right now the plan has kind of 3 gang windows and a door.
Yep.
So what is correct?
Actually, that's a really great question. Kip drew this, and then Karen was in the other day. The will get update. They want to put in a side door. If we can go to the floor plan. I think the floor plan. Yes. So see, you can see in the floor plan that there is a door that they want to be able to go out into the yard from that side instead of going all the way around. So this is good observation. So it just needs to update the elevation to look like that.
Yeah, and I think we'd probably appreciate getting rear elevations also, unless it didn't make it to us and there is a rear elevation that we didn't get.
To be honest with you, we saw the dates on this and we scrambled to get this in because I didn't realize there was an architectural board meeting until Kip told me there was one. I thought I was just going to apply for a permit and start working when the things dry up, which is soon. So, and trying to squeeze in things with an architect these days is a challenge. Crazy, but yeah, so yeah, I'll make sure. I just texted him today to let him know the meeting was, and he said when he's back in town, he's gonna finalize that just so we can get the permit going and get everything.
And then can you just talk about the porch addition a little bit, just because it is kind of clipped off of the plan. We don't see all of it, so I guess. What is your overall depth on the addition versus what's existing?
Yeah, we're gonna bump it out.
8 feet.
Yeah, 8 feet on there to just give enough room for 2 chairs on either side and a little area to kind of be covered in. So
okay,
we're not looking to do anything crazy there. Just some nice cedar posts on either side, and it'll have probably just a nice beadboard, ceiling. So that's the plan for that.
Okay, those are the only questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Chris?
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew? Is Andrew still on? All right.
I'm sorry.
Mary?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, so just a couple of questions. I mean, need to know a little bit more about the materials that you're utilizing throughout the entire addition, how you're matching the existing, where are you matching the existing? I know you're doing the siding here. So that's number one. Number two is just on that front elevation. I also raise a question between the front elevation and the side elevation, the south elevation, about the roof line that goes to the existing home with that former addition, because the way this is looking as if the roof of the new dining room addition is to be pitched back toward the building, toward the actual existing home, the original house. And so that is a concern on how that is going to get resolved. And what we don't have is kind of a roof plan to take a look at, is understand how that's going to be mitigated. So I do have a concern with that. And then, well, those are two of the main things that I'm concerned with and have questions about.
Sure. If we can go to the front picture of the place, we're basically going to match the all the existing siding that you see in that bump out where they have their current front entry. You can see the back of the house is a stucco, and also you can see a little bit over on the garage. So same visual elements with fascias, with trim boards, with a cedar board siding with the same reveal. So all that will be consistent around the entire new addition. The roof, I know Kip spent a lot of time on that. If we see the flat angle of the roof angle that comes out of the old addition coming out at us, that is going to continue across, and that pitch also then goes back down towards the backyard in order to maybe go into the front elevation, maybe the best to maybe see that, and then maybe the side. But so you can see that the front of where the three windows are in the middle of the house, that's going to be the same coming across, and then it picks up and goes back down just to bridge the two gables to keep them separated far enough out. So
but it appears like that new dining room roof, though, is higher than the existing roof of the former addition. So that's where it's a little confusing.
Yeah, it goes back further. If we actually can go to the side elevation, I'm pretty sure maybe we can see it there.
Andrew, you're right. As drawn, it's not resolved. You got your roof pitching back towards the house, so
I see that little
not drawn
area
correctly.
there. Yeah, I think that's supposed to come up and meet the house and then come back down in order to match that front elevation going across. Yeah, I think I see where you're talking, where it starts coming back towards that right there. Yeah, right where your mouse just went, should be touching against the house, and then that would be the pitch on the front going towards the front yard, and then the back to pick up the gutter to the back.
Yeah, that should get resolved. I mean, that's something going on there. So
we can make sure that that's updated with a full set of plans for getting the permit. But that's a really good observation. I didn't see that.
Andrew, are you all set?
I am for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
No further questions from me.
Brian?
Is there what's the relationship between the new windows on the new portion and the existing windows? It looks like the new ones are a lot bigger than the existing house. Was that the intent? I mean, just as I look at this elevation, the front elevation, there's no real relationship between the existing and the new windows.
Sure. It's an older house, and obviously back then they didn't really put in large windows, and I don't know. I know they wanted to maximize light, and we stayed within code, so they didn't have to be tempered glass. And that was one of the homeowners thing, wanted to let some light into the house, because when you're in there, it actually is pretty dark. And they have a lot of wood. So the idea in the space was to have windows that brought in some light that they'll be spending a lot of their time in.
Okay.
And as
I don't
for the
have anything else.
windows, they'll be vinyl. That they already have some replacement windows in there. You know, obviously the energy standards of what we want in today's construction. 2x6, you know, extension jams and everything.
Brian, you all set?
Thank you. All set.
Fran?
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, I got a couple of comments. I'm not going to get into details or anything, but a quick concern that I have is just when I look at this frontage along with the neighbor to the left, it's a huge massing of building on this road. Quick question, did you ever consider running the axis of the house from the east to the west along the south edge of the existing house?
To do what with? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding where you're going with
Right,
that.
right now you're running parallel to the street with this addition. Did you ever look at or consider running the addition on the south side of the house perpendicular to the road? And then the other question is for Jeff. With this property so close to the existing park, is there any variance or EPOD concerns, et cetera? So
There's no back, you can't move anywhere back. The only place in this lot to go is to the right of the front elevation that I'm looking at. I don't have my bearings on north, south, east, and west, but plus there's a deck in the backyard.
This is a west elevation?
Yep.
So that should help orientate you.
Well, is there a lot plan there that we
The
can look at?
site plan, the second page. There, right there.
Yeah. So as you can see on that, yeah. it's
So you're
kinda
not
hard.
as deep, all right. Well,
And there's a deck that's in the, it's a small deck, but it's still a deck with
yeah,
a little
I mean,
go back there that
it looks like you got a new deck proposed in your elevation.
no, we're just removing the old deck and keeping the existing deck that's there. And then the other question was what was the other question?
It was to Jeff. Because you back up to the town, your property line, if there's any variance or EPOD concerns.
Not, there won't be a variance concern, but I can double check the EPOD.
Okay. That's all I have to ask. You can call Jeff's office in the morning and get our answer.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is 3AR-4-22, 2720 West Henrietta Road, GRH, Raza Auermanish. Full exterior interior renovation to an existing steel building for conversion to a supermarket. Are they here?
He's here. Reza, I just asked you to unmute.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Yep. Hi, welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Reza Armanish. I'm the architect for this project. Basically, this is an existing building, pre-engineered metal siding, all steel frame, and roof is approximately 112 slope, very shallow slope. Right now, it's just basically a gable in front and back, and then it's a long 181 foot by about 60 foot, 7.5 inch wide. So what we are proposing basically to cover the building, exterior portion of the building with EFS. And I have chosen 3 colors. The front, you see, I have modulated the front, so it's a little bit more interesting than just a simple gable end with the shallow 112 slope. It's going to be an Asian supermarket. It used to be a restaurant, a Japanese restaurant or Chinese restaurant, Asian restaurant. So the front, if you look at the floor plan, you see that where the windows and the glazing and the door is set back in about 5 feet to protect from elements, snow, and rain, and it gives it a little bit of depth at the front. At the sides, the other end, as you see, that's almost the same slope as what the roof that we have. We are proposing to remove the deck. Existing deck is punctured all over the place, so we're putting a steel deck and putting metal, standing seam metal roof on it. The windows and doors are all aluminum, basically extruded aluminum, dark anodized, and glazing is pretty much clear. I mean, it won't be exactly clear because I'm going to specify low E, but because that's the west end, so they're going to get good amount of sun. So it's going to have low E, so it could be a little bit darker than clear. We are proposing 3 colors. I'm using Stowe. Basically, they're mainly earth tone colors. The colors that you see on the drawing, it doesn't really represent exact colors, but I do have prints that I don't know. I don't think it's going to be visible on the if I show it on the camera. But basically, this color is the columns. If you look at the side, or pilasters, it's basically I'm puncturing the pilaster. Insulation depth is 2 inches. The banding, the accent banding is 1.5 inches, and the fill is 1 inch insulation. This is the color of the field. It's kind of a tan, light tan color. The banding is a little bit slightly darker. It's not orange, but this is when you print it on the computer, it doesn't give you exact color that you see on their web page. But we are proposing 3 colors, mainly earth tone colors. Accent colors will be a little bit darker than the field, and the columns will be a little bit deeper, not terracotta, but close to that color. So that's, and then pretty much there. I have 2 doors on south and north for exits, 1 door on the back. We also have an overhead door for delivery on the north side, as you see. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. If you have any comments, questions, I'm open to any suggestions.
Okay, Casey, you're up.
I don't have any questions. I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Chris? Andrew?
This is quite the update from the original structure, which I think will be a positive here. I really don't have that many questions. Pretty straightforward. You're not changing the overall depth or width or height of this structure. I guess I don't know, and I can't tell on the site plan exactly where that overhead door is located.
It's located on the north side. Presently, there is a overhead door in that area. It's right there. Yes, right now there is a door, overhead door there. It's kind of beat up, pretty dilapidated, damaged. So we are removing it. There's a door right next to it presently. I'm removing that, but I'm keeping the overhead door so for the delivery of the goods and products.
Okay, and so the only windows that you have on this entire structure are just going to be down the west facade. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
All
I
set,
have,
Andy?
yeah, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Chris, are you available or you want me to keep going?
No, sorry. I had the Google and I had the application up and I I couldn't find the unmute
Got
button.
lost.
Okay, so I think part of my question is just relating to, you had mentioned a little bit of relief in the different colors of the ephes. Did I understand that right? That you had 2 inches, 1.5 inches, and 1 inch. So we're only talking about, 1/2 inch of relief in these colors.
Between the pilasters, the vertical elements, right? Yes, and the field, which is number 1 and number 2. The number 2s are 2 inch off the. Basically, I'm providing 2 inch insulation. On number 1s, I'm providing 1 inch insulation. On the banding, if you go to the side elevation, it's 1.5 inches. So number 3 is 1.5 inches. So there is, I was
Got it.
trying to get
Okay.
a little bit of depth in, so it's not a flat surface, because it's almost 181 foot, not almost, it's 181 foot long. So in order to break the monotony of the one long elevations, I kind of tried to bring it up a little bit. Of course,
Sure.
I wanted to bring it more, but the cost goes up and I'm tight with the budget based on the budget that they have.
Sure, understood. It would be very helpful to see samples of the colors. I almost feel like part of what I was doing in Google is I was just looking around this building on West Henrietta Road. You're competing, well, the Duncan is right next to you.
Yes, Duncan
And
is next
everywhere
door.
you look, there's some very bright, vibrant, intense colors. And when you said that they were different earth tones, I mean, I really couldn't tell when you held up the things on your screen what I was looking at. It feels like for this building to, have the right amount of stateliness on this road, it may call for a little bit bolder color scheme.
Yes. Well, the colors are really bold, but on the computer, you cannot tell. These are the 3 colors that I'm using. I don't know if it shows it.
Yeah, it's really difficult to tell.
Yes.
I'm even trying to make you bigger right now. I can't do it, but yeah.
What
okay,
I can
so
do, I can get some samples and submit it for the review.
Yeah.
And then as far as the textures are concerned, mainly the field is going to be pretty much fine texture. The banding and pilasters are going to be limestone, which is very fine finish, but the field will be fine texture, but it's actually limestone texture is much smoother than the fine texture in stone lineup.
All right, Chris, you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, next is Mary.
I don't have any questions. Is this related to the supermarket, the Asian supermarket around the corner on Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road?
No, ma'am. They have an Asian supermarket close to U of R. It's in a plaza. It's in a plaza that they're functioning there, but that space is so small. So they purchased this building and properties about 11,000 square foot. So it's pretty good. So just a hair under 11,000.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian?
I'm all set. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Fran?
I'm all set. Thank you.
I have one question. How are your mechanicals going to be handled? Are they on site or are they up on the roof or?
Presently, I'm proposing to do ductless. So as opposed to a ducted system, basically either a Mitsubishi or Daikin system. And we are going, in order to, right now there are 2 actually, I think maybe 3, but I've seen 2 large, probably 20-ton units on the roof, which are substantially large, and they even reinforced the steel to hold those units. We are not going to have those units. So mostly, I'm just thinking, most likely we're going to fence anything that is going to be on the roof. I'm going to have some kind of a fencing around it so it hides it. But it's very difficult because the slope is so shallow, and the fencing around the equipment will stand out. And I'm just trying not to. So I'm going to discuss this issue with the owner to see if we can put it in the back. I can run these lines almost 130 feet long for the line sets for the units. So we may be able to put them all on the east side of the building so it's not visible. Basically to the west of the refuse area, the dumpster area, which is fenced in.
Yeah.
But that's what basically I'm planning to use, just 5-ton units, like Mitsubishi or Daikin.
Okay.
So they're much smaller than what they have right now.
Sure, sure. I appreciate that. I do agree fencing makes it jump out, so. All right, I don't have anything else. You can call Jeff's office in the morning and get our answer.
Great, thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
your
much.
time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is signage. 1638, 2900 Monroe Avenue, skylight signs, a building face sign, unlimited nutrition.
The first and the fourth were administratively approved, but I just put them on the agenda. They're
Oh,
approved per their sign plans.
So we don't need to look at them, right?
Nope.
All right, so 1639, 3450, Winton Place, Suite B6, Premier Sign Systems. Building face sign, OFC's, the Old Farm Cafe. Casey?
I'm good with it.
Chris?
Wouldn't be my choice, but knowing that plaza, I think it's fine.
Andrew?
I'm fine with it. My only comment, however, is the proximity of OFCs in relationship to the D and the F below. It's almost as if they need a little bit more space between them. It's really jammed in. Otherwise, I'm fine with it.
Mary? Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't know why they have to say OFC and then Old Farm Cafe, and they mean the same thing. It's kind of like Old Farm Cafes, the Old Farm Cafe, if I understand it correctly.
Might mean something else.
They have like a theater business called OFC. And this is like this is gonna be like an interactive theater cafe. And so
Wow.
there's OFC and then there's Old Farm Cafe.
Oh, I thought it had to do with the dance place.
No,
Isn't that
there's
OFC Creations right there?
Yeah, it does have to do with them.
Okay.
It's like a theater dance company. And
Right.
so this is kind of a shoot off of that. And it's like just right near the other one too.
Brian?
I would only echo Andrew's concern about the OFCs and the Old Farm Cafe being too close. I think they should just separate them a little bit, but other than that, I think it's fine.
Fran?
No, I'm good, but I had the same comment about that it was tight. The letters were tight.
All right, I'm okay with it. Not a whole lot of destinations in that plaza, so I think it'll be easy to be found. Next is 1640, 2298 Monroe Avenue, a building face sign, empty nails.
No TMP.
I know, I saw this and I read empty.
Casey,
It's fine for a sign. I read empty also. It's not
Uh,
a name.
Chris,
Love it. Just hope their lines are crisper on the nails than they are on the font they chose. A lot
Andrew,
of brush strokes up on the cuticle there.
Good point.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you the sense that they
Not too
understand.
precise.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
Mary,
Yeah.
Brian,
Well, yeah, I guess it's fine.
Fran,
Well, you know, the other signs along there have a white background. And this has the black background. I don't really like it, but that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
so that's a no.
That's an, well, if this is their logo, I don't want to crush their creativity. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the black background.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it either. So,
It looks like a blackboard.
all right.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
I thought
Maybe
that
that's
was kind of the intent, yeah.
All right, should we move on to old business?
So is this approved?
It looks like it.
Okay.
So majority was 5-2.
Yep.
And the other ones were side plan, so 2AR-1-22. Casey,
This one, I think I was okay with kind of the discussions. I think we talked about spacing it, you know, making them, the spaces around the vents, making them equal gaps. And then I can't remember, this one came in, they were fine. No, wait, this one does have the conduits on top, right? They may or they may not. So I personally, I would want to put in some kind of condition saying no exposed conduits and just put it to them and figure it out, in my opinion.
I agree. Chris,
Yeah, approve Glick 1 with that stipulation.
Andrew,
I would say similar, however, I think I would be okay with the conduit running on the back side of the home to get down to the transfer box. I would definitely want to have the stipulation that there's to be no exposed conduit on the roof itself. We have approved other solar systems that does have a single conduit that runs along a corner of the structure. So
Yeah, agreed.
Good point.
Yeah, good clarification.
Mary,
I don't have anything further. I believe I agree with those conditions by Casey and Andrew.
Brian,
Yep, approved, version 1.
and do you agree with Andrew?
Yep, yeah, I agree with that.
All right, Fran,
I approve version 1 and I agree with Andrew.
okay, ditto. So approved with no conduits on the roof revealed, and then exposed conduit in the back.
And the even spacing of the panels on the.
Yeah.
correct.
So next is 2AR-222. Casey,
I was fine with it.
Chris,
P111 magazine called this their project of the year. So I'm good with it.
who wrote that article? Andrew?
Oh, it's fine. It's fine for its context.
Yeah, it's okay. I have this, why they didn't bring it down to the ground is beyond me, but that's okay by me. It gives a nice little portal for mice.
Mary,
Okay, painfully okay.
Brian,
I'm okay, but I have a question. My question is, why were the pictures taken by the fire marshal?
They got
Because-
blown in.
Yeah,
They're doing work without a building permit.
That's what I
Right.
wanted to know. I
Yeah.
didn't hear the backstory, so
Yeah.
I kind of figured that was the case, but
Fran?
yeah, that's fine.
sorry.
I approve.
I'm okay. It is what it is. AR 322. Casey?
I don't know about this one. Put me at the end.
Chris, shall
I'm fine with it.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'm okay with this too. I know there's limitations.
Mary?
Yeah,
Brian?
Yep, I'm all right with it.
Fran?
I approve.
Casey, you want me to come back to you?
And I'm good with that. Everyone else is.
So I'm gonna just mention, when I look at this quickly, I think he can if you look and count at the panels, he can come up with an even composition in 2 locations. The backside roof with the 6 on it, he could easily probably put another row in there. And then put the leftover ones up on the backside of the main roof in an equal composition. That's my only comment, but I'm not real thrilled about this one. I'm not thrilled about the presentation, and so that's where we're at. Okay, I guess it's approved. Jeff?
Okay.
3AR 122. Casey?
I feel like this one I would probably vote for tabling
Okay.
for more information.
Chris?
Yeah, this one worries me. I mean, did he just came up with this on his own?
He's had 40 years to think about it.
I mean, this wasn't drawn up by an architect, but
No.
I really feel like it's gonna look like a hat too low on your brow.
Yeah,
And I think
agree.
it's simple. I mean, go to a 3-on-12 and raise the,
yeah.
and I also wonder about, he wasn't getting it when I was saying, did you look at coming in a foot or two? It's like, well, but that's where the edge of the porch is. I'm like, did
Yeah.
you look at bringing the porch in a foot or two? But that's where the railing is. I don't think he was quite getting what we're
Yeah.
seeing here in terms of, just a little relief from the corner. And then I think a lot of other things would fall into place for him.
I think that's a good summary right there. So table, deny, or approve?
I would vote for table, and yes, I would say that we need to see that that front ledger come up.
Andrew?
Yeah, I would go toward tabling as well, and all of those points that Chris mentions. The eave line has to be raised up to be consistent with the pass-through room from between the garage and the main home, and a lot of this can be resolved.
Yeah. Mary? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't like the hip roof, and I don't think the not being able to match the siding is a good excuse for not having the triangular ends. People use different materials for that, and it's totally doable. I understand why they want that depth, though. They do want it to be a usable space. So I think that reducing the pitch and going to a shed roof is kind of what I would want to see before I would approve it. But we'll let him come up with whatever he does. So I would vote to table.
If I could step back one other second too, it would be really helpful to see this other porch because it wasn't showing up in Google for me. Or maybe I'll just have to take a trip over here and kind of look at the context around there. I don't know if we can request that.
Well, if it's recent, we should have it on file.
I probably have pictures of it if it's recent.
Okay.
Okay.
It may be the one we saw about 6-7 months ago.
Which I think we changed to a shed roof.
Yeah.
Well, this should be a shed roof.
But Mary, I agree with you. I wasn't gonna mention that since I was very first. I was like, let me just see what other people think, but I totally agree it should be a shed roof.
So we'll put it in the notes. Brian?
Tabled for all the same reasons as mentioned. And I think, he didn't even consider a shed roof, really. I mean, he sort of dismissed it right away, which, and maybe it is because the house across the street has a shed roof. Maybe that was his thought.
It's his
Is that maybe he
prerogative.
doesn't do the, yeah. So I think it would look better as a shed roof.
Fran?
I agree with everything that's said. And I do think that bringing it in from the ends is gonna make a big difference, and they'll see how it can work without the hip.
Yeah, I tabled. I agree with everyone's comments. Jeff, I think since this is recorded, I'd go back to Chris's and write that summary down.
Yeah, I think I got them. Do you want to put bringing the edges of the roof in towards the middle as a condition or a recommendation?
I would make it a recommendation because it may, if he goes with a shed, then maybe that geometry of porch works. I don't think that geometry of the porch works specifically with the hip.
Okay. And
So
same
I
with
wouldn't require it. I would recommend it. That would
how
be
with
my-
is the shed roof a requirement?
I would have to see the context around there
Yeah, I would
first before
recommend
I
it.
would feel strongly about that.
Okay.
Or
Okay. Thanks.
recommend to get an architect. 3AR 2-22. Casey?
It's the best version yet. I think they've captured a lot of what we've asked for in the past. Obviously, it's still an odd site condition where it's still the back of the house. But honestly, I didn't have any comments or critiques of it. I think it's going to be the best version we get.
So are we approving it as presented?
I'd be okay with that, or if people have other comments, I'm okay with approving with comments.
Okay. Chris?
I think what we're struggling with here is this is not planned well. That you've got this drive-through aisle on the side of the building along Clinton Avenue. I mean, granted, I think Mary made the point that people experience this building driving by at, we'll say 35 miles an hour. But I did not like how it was presented that, yeah, well, it's not going to be spandrel, it's going to be vision, but we may frame in front of it in the future. We have no way of predicting that. And that's no different than our concerns. They're at least the concerns I've been voicing about having spandrel face Clinton. And I was questioning, like, where at 12 Corners have they done this?
I was going to comment, I didn't want to do it in front of Paul, but Rite Aid is a good example, the old Rite Aid that had a lot of spandrel.
But that's not there anymore.
Some of it is, I think.
But I'm thinking the 12 Corners, that's opposite.
Yeah, not 12
that.
Corner Plaza. Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
think he was just talking about
it was the
displays.
iPlace, and the iPlace littered their windows with graphics, which I didn't think they were allowed to do. But at any rate, if they do come back and they want to do a fit out, and they're going to be framing in front of glass and effectively turning vision glass into spandrel, wouldn't that have to come in for us to look at?
Probably not. I don't think so. But Jeff?
Because it's a total, it's a cop out, right? It's not addressing the concern. It's basically saying, well, if we're not going to do it with spandrel, we're going to build drywall in front of it, right? The net result is the same, but I think maybe what we're up against here is if the planning board has allowed this to be developed in this way with a drive-through aisle along Clinton, there's not a whole lot we can do about it because that's what informs the rest of the building design. So I can't say that I'm particularly happy about this, but I also don't feel like it's really something that we can fix with architectural. I think it's really rooted in a planning decision that I don't particularly like. So in short, I don't care if that canopy stays or goes. And I would really hope that maybe there would be something that we could do to ensure that where we've asked for vision glass, that it's vision glass and that it wouldn't be mediated by some interior architecture at a later time.
Approve, deny, or table?
I guess, given those three choices, I'd have to approve.
Okay. With comment. Andrew?
I'm okay with this, and I know Chris makes a very, very good point. The reality of it is the front of the building's on the other side. I think this is a good step toward giving it some depth, some perspective, and basically it's eye candy. At the end of the day, you are going to be driving by it at 35 or 40 miles an hour, and whether or not you see a true view window or not is going to be secondary. You're not even going to notice it. You probably notice it more at night than you would during the day when the stores are in operation. So with all of that being said, I am fine with taking off that roofed structure over top of the mechanical door. I actually think it does draw a lot of attention to it, especially if immediately adjacent to that is your menu board. And then all of a sudden it starts to get complicated. So I would approve it.
Mary?
I approve it as presented, understanding all the limitations and constraints that they have. I prefer the canopy over that door because, again, the drive-by is going to read the canopies more than the doors. So I approve it with all canopies and everything else as presented.
Thank you. Brian?
I would approve it as presented.
Fran?
Approve as presented.
I'll approve, but I'm going to make one comment. I think from a site standpoint, there'll be a lot of conflicts with headlights in that drive-through, which we do see on Monroe Avenue now. That's the one complaint I have about the Starbucks drive-through up there. And this part of Clinton is a very congested area too. So,
Stuart?
Yep.
I drove by that Starbucks today and I can't believe we let that facade happen on the street side. It's totally back end.
Monroe?
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's we can
Anyway,
have another
just-
discussion about that at another time.
Yeah, I
but-
didn't know if that was what we approved or not, but I just wanted to interject. And I don't want to take up time on it.
So, Jeff, I guess this is approved as presented. Were there any other notes that needed to be put in? All quiet. Okay, next is 3AR-322. Did we lose Jeff?
No, I'm here.
Okay, you got everything?
Yep.
Okay, Casey.
Do you want the tally vote or do you want the ideas?
Just bomb it.
Okay, so I would table it.
Okay.
I definitely want to see rear elevation, roof plans and elevations matching. I think just as a level set. And then just design wise, not even aesthetically yet, just design wise, I don't think the roof works. And that's a huge concern of mine.
Yep. You all set? Chris?
As a design concept and what they're doing, because of where it's located and looking at the context around it, I don't have any specific concerns there, but the roof is unresolved. So they got to work it out, and we got to, I think we hold this to the same standard we would have anybody else in terms of identifying the finishes, right? Or being very explicit that they're going to match existing, but there's a lot going on here. I would just want them to say that they've accounted for all the materials. Even if they're pointing at this and they say, yeah, that's Nova Scotia gray siding, we're going to match that. That's aqua blue shutter, whatever.
So we're tabling it?
Table, yes, just because it's not developed to the same standard that we require for residential additions, and we have concerns about the design from a functional standpoint.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, I would table this with that type of commentary. The other thing I would like to see too is understanding the relationship of the extension of the porch area in relationship to where the garage is, because that's really not clear how much. It's 8 feet out from something, but I'm not rightly sure if that's the existing building or if that's 8 feet beyond that R&R sitting room area. So need a little bit further clarification on how that all gets modded out here.
Is there a concern about it or just a clarification? Because
well,
this does sit
I mean,
well back from the street too.
Yeah, I guess I have a concern only because that area between the garage and that front entranceway then turns into a catch-all zone, which when you look, what the hell is going to go on in that catch-all zone? And then it becomes, they're concerned about light and such. Now they're bringing out another roof structure even further to further restrict light to the existing 3 windows on the existing building. So I do have a little bit of concern how far it juts out.
Yeah, so it juts out almost 9 feet from the wall of the existing, according to that drawing right there. So.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's that R&R sitting room. So is that in the same plane as the existing house?
I took that to mean because of the dashed line that shows the roof extension.
Yeah.
So I took the wall to be the existing wall where they've got the arched window that's becoming a door.
Yeah.
And then the porch extending from there. And yeah, that's kind of becoming a dark zone.
So
yeah,
Andrew,
especially because that's on the north side of the lot. And so it's gonna become a little trap area.
Should be the west. Andrew, your table?
Yes.
Okay, Mary?
I agree with what Casey said. My issue is that the presentation is not complete and consistent. So table.
Brian?
Table. Did anyone else have a feeling about the windows on the front?
Yeah.
I didn't. I didn't because again, if you kind of just understand this for what it is, I mean, this is a house that had an addition and then yet another addition. I would be very concerned if this were in a neighborhood that had a strong context of a style, right? But there isn't. This is a dead end of a little bit of a less traveled area. So for that reason, I saw this as expressing itself separately from what had already been done.
Okay.
It'll make the back house look farther away.
Just looks awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to make it look like.
So I'm just going to make one comment. Because it's on a dead end, you still have neighbors to the west of this that will be viewing it. You've got other parallel streets to this with clear shots of it. So.
And it might not be. It might be further developed at some point in the future.
Let's not isolate.
Even so, the expression of the addition is separate from the house addition, which is separate from again the house.
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
I mean, we're so detached now stylistically that I don't think
that
it's
siding
relevant.
doesn't really work for me.
Brian?
I think Brian.
Yeah,
said
table. Yeah, table.
Fran?
Yeah, I think this doesn't work at all. there's no hierarchy between the front entry and the garage. I don't think bringing it out 8 feet does it any justice. It seems like there could be more thought and make it, you know, if it was of a different scale, different height, it would work a lot better. It's just very imbalanced, and they designed to that addition that I don't think works as it is, the existing addition. They seem to design more toward that rather than the original house. So for me, it doesn't work at all.
I agree. I table it. I'm almost on the border of denying it. But, so tabled with all those
Would you
comments,
want-
Jeff.
I was looking that there's no returns here. Is that something you'd want to see if they came back on the new roof?
Yeah. Everyone good?
Mhm.
Last but not least, 3AR-4-22. Casey.
This is an odd one, because I would like more information on the drawings, just because I flat out don't know what the colors are and how they relate to the elevations. It's an odd design, but in context and in comparison to what's there, I mean, it's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
So I can kind of go either way, and I think the biggest one is just information on the drawings and material, colors and call outs. Do we need that to be an actual resubmission? I'm not sure. So I don't know. Kind of, we'll go with the flow on this one.
Chris?
This is less developed than what we normally see for a commercial retail application for sure. In concept, it's hard to know. I don't particularly like it, but I don't think it's out of character with the rest of Town Line Road, or not Town Line Road, with West Henrietta, right? So in some ways, it has to be something like this to visually fit in and even command some sort of attention and presence. So wouldn't be my choice. It sounds like he's up against a very tight budget. It's certainly a lot better than what's there. Was this Arigato? Is this what's left of Arigato now?
Yeah. And they came in a
Wow.
couple years ago for something different. And that
Yeah,
didn't
'cause
end up
that-
being built.
That used to have like a lot more architecture surrounding that shed.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if the roof structure can support roof mounted equipment, frankly.
Well, that's what he
So-
said. I think he was going to ground mount. from what
He
I
wants,
understand.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
saying that, and I think that's what this is going to end up with. So I think though, I'm going to say table, and the reason is that number one, I think we got to see the samples of the materials, right? And number two, it's not tremendously developed. I don't have a whole lot of sense of what the relief is actually going to get us in terms of the EFS, but I guess it's as far as it's going to go in some respects.
So you want to table it with more,
Table it for, definitely we want to see the material samples.
yeah, and details?
Yeah, I think we should see some
EFS
the
details.
same level
and-
of development that we require for anybody else.
Yeah. You got that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, I would table this as well. For some of the reasons that Chris has mentioned. The other is, I mean, there's some concerns I have with, there was no discussion about what's on the ground plane immediately adjacent to the ground, and then we're putting the EFS, and we've had this concern with a lot of other buildings that have just been EFS, where we've tried to promote some kind of hardened material down there for salt resistance and moisture resistance, and I don't see that detail. I too would want to see the colors, the true colors that are being selected, and then a side elevation to understand what's going on with the false front in relationship to the other portion of the building? Because I don't see anything in here that kind of gives me that either.
Yeah, there's a section.
Boomtown.
It's right there. Look at it.
So it's literally just a thin band up on the top there.
The Boomtown. Yep.
All right.
Chinatown. It's our Chinatown.
Is this really an Asian inspired design here?
It's Sino-Palladian.
I have no idea what inspired the design. You know, but
So
I have to admit,
it's a
it has a
kitschy-
certain charm and appeal that I can't
Yeah.
put my finger on. But I don't
I
know
think-
where it's coming from.
It's Sino-Palladian, meaning Chinese Palladian.
Mary, while
Is
you're
that a
on
real
that
thing?
subject, are you,
I approve this. I may
okay,
be the only one, but
approve with more detail?
well, I would like to approve it and be able to give a nod to the colors, the actual samples, but we'd have to go in individually to the town hall to do that. So I wouldn't withhold approval for that because I think he's got the right idea. It would be good to see them though.
What
Brian,
about the hardened material?
The colors, I'm okay with just seeing the colors, but that's me.
Brian,
Yeah, I probably would have approved this. Wasn't. I didn't see anything too complicated about it, although I don't really see any detail on the relief that he calls out on the front. So I think that's the only detail that I see really missing is we don't, he said something was like the banding was 1 inch or 2
Page
inches,
8.
but
It's numbered.
we don't,
Page 8, I just found it.
oh, we did?
Yeah, it didn't show up and we didn't go through it in the presentation, but it's page 8. And if you go down, it
Okay.
shows the columns coming out 1 inch and then the typical banding is just a 1/2 inch
Okay.
difference.
Okay.
That's a
so I would
that's a
approve
bad
that.
that's a bad wall section there, though, friends. He's trapping moisture in there. He's got OSB as the backup for the ephes. That's not good.
well,
Anyway,
yeah, it's not our decision on that, right? Or is it? Fran,
Yep, I'm fine with the design.
I'm okay with approving it, but I'd like to see materials. So Jeff, I don't know if that's gonna be an administrative review or you get it out to us, we can all stop in.
so and are Andrew and I the only ones that are thinking about how
Casey's up. Casey's up. She said she was going with the flow. It's her call.
I said I would go with the flow. I really can. I can go either way. Like, I think it's fine. I could approve it.
Oh. Okay, so are you approving it? Let's.
Drum roll.
I know, right?
Come on, you're on a Wegmans timeline here, kid.
I don't know. I think why does it come down to me?
Because you
I'm going
deferred
to
it.
change my response slightly, and maybe you can think about that while I change my response slightly. Because Andrew pointed out, we always, well, I shouldn't say always, we very often do cite when you don't have a durable material near grade that we want to see
Yeah.
something more durable.
And that's where I was just getting at with, that's why I was trying to dive into these sections when we're talking about that. So that I would go for tabling to figure out what happens below. I mean, so they do have the ephes stopping above grade, which is per the details, but you should have still a nice, some kind of finished element, not just exposed CMU and it dying down kind of on top of it. So I would want to see the base material applied and some kind of good details here.
And for me, it's particularly at the entry because I don't see that at all.
True, and that's where we don't have a section, and that would be at grade.
Where there's salt and traffic.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a comment?
So where's the vote?
So I vote tabled now.
All right.
So Stuart, you're the tiebreaker, huh?
No, I already approved it.
Oh,
What's my,
so-
my vote is table, correct? You have that?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
3 tabled and 4.
No, there's
approved?
4 tables, I think.
Oh, four tables and 4 approvals.
I got Casey, Chris, Andrew. Oh, yeah. So I would like to see more materials. So if we have to do that by tabling it, I'll throw a table in.
Yeah, and I'll change mine to table to just keep it where we, all equal. They do have to show us the material below the EFS. So I'd like to switch that.
Andrew, you started a revolution.
I guess I did. It's really funny too, when you Google this, it is the old Arigato. So that photo that he shows at the end of his presentation is before, it almost looks like this is before Arigato.
No, that's what this looks like now.
I don't know if that's Argato. I thought
It
Duncan
is.
had it.
It is.
Yeah.
The Arigato restaurant is immediately adjacent to the Dunkin' Donuts.
You
And
can,
the-
you can look back in Google Street View.
Okay, so we're tabling this and we're done?
Yep.
Yeah, and can I just recommend on the notes, just instead of asking for details, how about we say something like provide durable material
Yeah, that's
along,
fine.
Yeah.
Sidewalk grades.
Shall
Provide
provide.
color samples and, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. We'll see everyone in April. Stay
it's been
healthy.
real.
Stay safe.
Happy
Stay
spring.
productive.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good to see everyone. Yep.
You
All
too.
right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.